They called humans a fairy tale. Then they saw Earth burn. The Galactic Council broadcast was supposed to mark peace. For the first time in 7 centuries, representatives of every major species gathered inside the shimmering spire of the Senate Nexus, orbiting the white dwarf of Epsilon Draconis. They came to celebrate the Extinction Accord, the official declaration that humanity no longer existed. Holograms shimmered across the amphitheater. The pale, feathered Khar'thul Chancellor extended his talons and proclaimed, "The Deathworlders of Soul are myths no longer. Their ashes nourish our unity." The hall erupted in cheers. Every delegate applauded the centuries-long campaign that had purified the outer systems. None noticed the silent figure standing in the shadows of the gallery, a figure whose pulse synced with a hidden transmitter buried beneath the Senate floor. Her name was Commander Aria Vale, age 32, survivor of New Dresden, the last human colony burned by the Khar'thul fleets 20 years ago. Her black uniform bore no insignia. Only a small metal shard hung from her neck, a fragment of her brother's ship hull. It gleamed faintly as she whispered, "Ashes nourish nothing, Chancellor." The betrayal had been swift. Humanity's plea for peace came too late. After centuries of war sparked by human expansion, the Council declared Earth a biological threat. When the Unity Armistice was signed, the Khar'thul fleet arrived as peacekeepers. Within days, cities on Mars, Luna, and Titan were glassed. Earth's oceans boiled under orbital bombardment. Billions screamed into the void, while the Council called it containment. The survivors scattered into the black, miners, smugglers, pirates, and soldiers. The galaxy dismissed them as ghosts, savages. Rumors whispered in dark markets. But Aria knew better. Humanity had not died. It had adapted. She pressed a fingertip to the microchip embedded in her wrist. A faint green pulse blinked. Somewhere beyond the Council's communication array, a dormant signal flared alive for the first time in decades. Signal Alpha 01. Retribution protocol initiated. Hours earlier, Aria's infiltration had been flawless. Disguised as a translator drone technician, she slipped through the docking tiers of the Nexus. The air was heavy with the stench of antiseptic and the cold hum of grav shields. Every corridor reeked of alien arrogance, the architecture angular and sterile, built to impress those who had never known wind or rain. She passed a massive viewport. Below her, the Senate's orbital defenses gleamed like a net of light. Hundreds of dreadnoughts drifted silently, engines dormant, their weapons angled outward. Perfectly secure, perfectly confident. A voice crackled in her ear, gravelly, aged, unmistakably human. "Vale confirmed visual. You're inside." "Inside and unseen," she murmured. "Council ceremony starts in 12 minutes." "You know the directive," replied Captain Darius Holt, commander of the Hidden Soul Remnant fleet. "Once it starts, there's no pulling back." "Understood. And Aria, for what they did to New Dresden, make them remember." A faint smile touched her lips. "Oh, they'll remember." In the heart of the Senate chamber, the Chancellor continued his performance. Holofeed streamed across thousands of worlds, broadcasting their triumph to every corner of the galaxy. "Let it be known," he declared, "that the Deathworlders were not gods, but beasts. And beasts can be tamed, or eradicated." A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. Even the cleric, whose crystalline forms glowed faintly, nodded in satisfaction. To them, humanity had been an aberration, too stubborn, too volatile, too alive. Aria's hand tightened on the detonator embedded in her sleeve. Not yet. The timing had to be perfect. The signal needed the Council's main relay fully open to reach the fleet beyond the rim. Every second counted. A holographic image of Earth appeared, its continents shattered, oceans dry. The Chancellor gestured dramatically. Thus ended the Deathworlders' reign. Thus began true civilization. That was when she stepped from the shadows. Civilization. Her voice cut through the chamber, soft but lethal. "You call genocide civilization." Gasps erupted. The Chancellor froze. Dozens of guards aimed plasma rifles. Their scanners flickered in confusion. The system couldn't register her biometric signature. A phantom in flesh. "Identify yourself," barked a council guard. Aria removed her hood. Her eyes burned with a glacial calm. Name's Vale. Commander, Sole Defense Network. The Chancellor's feathers bristled. Impossible. Humanity is extinct. Funny, she said, raising her wrist. We say the same about mercy. She pressed the trigger. The Senate trembled as the chamber's power grid erupted in a wave of static. The holograms shattered. Lights flickered out. For one heartbeat, there was silence. Then came the roar, an electromagnetic pulse, tearing through every system across the station. Defense shields collapsed. Communication relays went dark. From beyond the white dwarf's orbit, thousands of cloaked signatures flared into view. The sole remnant fleet, rising from the void like ghosts of vengeance. Panic rippled through the Senate. Alien delegates screamed in their native tongues. Aria strode through the chaos, eyes locked on the Chancellor as alarms wailed. You can't win, he shrieked. You're outnumbered, outgunned. You burned Earth, she said coldly. Now you'll see what grows in its ashes. She turned toward the viewport. Outside, the void ignited with fire. Human warships, long thought extinct, unleashed kinetic strikes that tore through the orbital defense grid. Massive carrier ships bearing the insignia of extinct colonies, Mars Vanguard, Luna Shield, Dresden's Wrath, opened their bays, releasing swarms of drones armed with fusion warheads. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy watched in horror as humans attacked again. The Chancellor stumbled back as the structure groaned under impact. This is madness. You'll doom us all. You doomed yourselves the moment you forgot who we are. Her voice was steady, unflinching. She had no hatred left, only purpose. A calm signal blinked in her ear. Commander! Holt's voice growled. Confirmation. Council fleets collapsing. Phase 2 is green. Copy that. Proceed with strike on relay grid. Leave the Senate intact. Intact. They need to watch. Flames licked across the chamber walls as oxygen vents ruptured. Aria stood unmoved amid the chaos, her gaze distant. For years she had dreamed of this moment, not revenge, but acknowledgement. Humanity's death had been declared by those who never understood it. But death was just another word for evolution. She turned back to the Chancellor, who cowered behind his throne. Tell your people, she said quietly. The fairy tale was true, and you were in it. With that, she vanished into the smoke, her transmitter still blinking, the heartbeat of Earth reborn. As the Senate burned, millions across the galaxy received a transmission, broadcast across every frequency. We are humanity. You called us myths. You turned our home to ash. But you forgot, ashes can still burn. The message repeated once, then cut to static. By the time the Council restored control, half their fleet was gone. The Retribution protocol had begun, and somewhere in the void, Aria Vale stared into the endless dark and whispered, For Earth. They thought we were finished. We were just getting started. The Galactic Council's panic spread faster than light. Across every broadcast channel, words repeated like a curse. Humans attacked the Senate. No one believed it at first. Humanity had been erased from history, wiped from maps and textbooks. Yet the shattered Senate nexus, still burning above Epsilon Draconis, told the truth no empire wanted to face. Humanity was real, and it was angry. The Khar'thul Chancellor, feathers scorched, eyes bloodshot, stood inside the command bridge of his dreadnought Dominion's claw. Below him floated fragments of his once proud fleet, silent and cold. You told me they were extinct, he hissed at his generals. You told me Earth was dust. A trembling aide bowed low. We confirmed it, Chancellor. No biosigns, no transmissions. The system is dead. Then where? He snapped, slamming a talon against the console. Did that fleet come from? The hologram flickered, Commander Aria Vale's face, recorded from the Senate assault, her calm words echoing through the chamber. Ashes can still burn. The Chancellor's claws scraped the steel. Then we smother the flame. Find them. Find her. I want their ashes cold this time. Half a sector away, deep inside the ruins of Saturn's moon Mimas, Outpost Helios came alive for the first time in 2 centuries. Hidden under layers of ice and metal, the last stronghold of humanity thrummed with reborn energy. Commander Aria Vale stood before the central viewport, watching the hangar below ignite with motion. Drones lifted weapon crates. Engineers patched ancient hulls. Pilots checked pre-flight systems. It wasn't an army. It was survival sculpted into steel. Captain Darius Holt's gravel voice came over the comm. We've intercepted council chatter. The Khar'thul are mobilizing 6 fleets. They're looking for ghosts. Let them, Aria said. Ghosts can haunt anyone. You sure about this, Commander? We hit them too hard. They'll retaliate. Good, she replied. They'll come out swinging. That's when we cut the hand off. She gestured to the tactical display, a star map dotted with red enemy installations. Each one supplied the Council's war effort. Fuel, data, communication. We don't fight their fleets, she said firmly. We gut their infrastructure. Hit where it hurts, quietly, precisely. Holt gave a low chuckle. Death world logic. Break the bones before the beast notices. Exactly. Hours later, in the armory deck, soldiers prepared for launch. Lieutenant Mara Lorne, pilot of the Valkyrie, ran her gloved hand across her ship's scarred surface, an antique craft rebuilt with scavenged alien parts. A young technician hesitated beside her. Ma'am, do you think we can actually win this? Mara smirked. Winning's optional. Making them regret ever finding us. That's mandatory. 3 days later, the sole remnant fleet drifted through the silent darkness near the Eridani Gate, cloaked within an asteroid field. The plan was audacious. Ambush a Khar'thul armada mid-transit, using mines made from derelict reactors and stripped-down fusion cores. Every bomb a relic of desperation. Aria stood in the command pit of her flagship, the Dresden's Wrath. The hum of the reactor was the only sound. Status, she asked. Drone net stable. Mara reported over comms. Charges armed and scattered. Khar'thul fleet entering the gate in 90 seconds. Hold position, Aria said. Let them come close. Through the viewport, distant light flickered. 20 massive carriers emerged from hyperspace, their hulls gleaming with arrogance. They believed this route was safe. Deep in their own territory, far from human space. A Khar'thul transmission bled through open frequencies. Sector clear. Begin sweep of debris. Engage plasma nets. Their dreadnoughts unleashed wide energy arcs, cutting through the asteroid field, vaporizing rock, scattering molten dust. They didn't know those rocks were wired with dormant fury. Now, Aria said softly. A pulse signal leapt from her console, invisible and silent. 1 heartbeat later, the void bloomed with fire. Thousands of explosions rippled outward, lighting the black like a dying sun. Shock waves tore ships apart. Shrapnel sliced through hulls. Reactors imploded. The Khar'thul formation disintegrated in seconds. No warning, no resistance. What was that? Came a terrified alien broadcast. Human engineering, Aria said. Crude. Efficient. The surviving vessels tried to escape, engines flaring in panic, but their navigation systems failed. The Remnant's code, injected into Council data relays months earlier, triggered a cascade of false signals. The Khar'thul fleet turned on itself, colliding, firing blindly. When the last explosion faded, the Eridani Gate was silent. 20,000 alien lives extinguished. No survivors detected. Mara reported quietly. We did it. No, Aria corrected, voice low. We warned them. Word of the ambush spread across the galaxy within hours. The Council's news networks struggled to contain it. Witnesses described ghost ships of soul and human firestorms appearing out of nowhere, striking and vanishing. Panic rippled through the trade routes. Merchants refused to transport Council cargo. Border colonies declared neutrality. In the shadows of the spiral arm, rebellion stirred, species once oppressed by the Council whispering, maybe the Deathworlders returned for all of us. Back on Outpost Helios, the atmosphere was electric but solemn. Crews celebrated quietly, aware that retaliation was inevitable. Aria stood before the strategy table, scanning intercepted transmissions. Holt's hologram flickered beside her. They're losing control, Commander. Khar'thul morale's collapsing. Even their allies are questioning them. Fear is spreading faster than our fleet, Aria said. That was the goal, wasn't it? She looked at him, eyes hard. The goal is survival. Fear is just a fuel. Holt hesitated. You've changed since New Dresden. We all did, she said. You don't come back from watching a planet burn the same. She closed the projection, leaving only the starlight. We've made our move. Now we disappear again. They'll come looking, and when they do, they'll find a galaxy no longer on their side. Later, in her quarters, Aria sat before a small holographic photograph, her brother smiling under the flag of Sol. She touched it lightly. We're still here, she whispered, and they finally know it. Outside the viewport, Saturn's rings glowed faintly, dusted with ice and memory. The human fleet drifted beyond them, dark, silent, waiting. Humanity had not returned for glory or conquest. It had returned because it refused to die quietly. For the first time in centuries, the stars carried a new kind of fear, one spoken only in whispers. The Deathworlders are back. And this time, they weren't hiding. They mistook mercy for extinction. Now they will learn the meaning of survival. The Eridani massacre sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Council's pride had been shattered, its fleets crippled. Entire empires questioned the very fabric of their dominance. Every corner of space echoed with one name, humanity. But for Commander Aria Vale, victory was a burden wrapped in fire. The sole remnant fleet was running on scavenged parts and stolen fuel. Every strike drained them, every jump risked detection. Humanity was winning, but bleeding while doing it. She stood on the command deck of the Dresden's Wrath, staring at the holographic star map. Dozens of red blips blinked, enemy fleets converging on known human routes. Captain Darius Holt's voice came through the comm, gravelly and exhausted. They're hunting us hard. Council's deploying entire sectors to track down ghosts. Let them try, Aria replied. Ghosts don't die twice. Holt gave a humorless chuckle. We're running low on fuel cells. We can't keep this up forever. We won't have to, she said, ice cold. We're ending this war before it begins again. Across the Council territories, paranoia turned to chaos. Khar'thul fleets burned neutral colonies under suspicion of harboring humans. Entire trade routes were abandoned. The once mighty Galactic Alliance fractured under fear and blame. In the Dominion's claw, the Khar'thul Chancellor tore through a stream of intercepted transmissions. Every feed showed the same thing. Human signatures appearing, striking, disappearing. They're everywhere, an aide cried. They're inside our systems, our networks. Enough, the Chancellor roared, slamming his talons onto the console. I will not let phantoms undo centuries of order. A general stepped forward cautiously. We've identified a pattern. Every attack traces back toward the Sol system. It may be their base of operations. The Chancellor's eyes glowed. Then that is where we crush them. Prepare the Purge Armada. Burn Sol again if you must. This time, I will watch their ashes scatter. Deep within Outpost Helios, alarms blared. Aria strode into the operations chamber as technicians reported in rapid succession. Massive Khar'thul Armada forming in the Epsilon corridor. Estimated strength, 200 ships. They're heading towards Sol, another shouted. Silence gripped the room. Even hardened veterans froze at the name. Earth was dead, its ruins silent under a toxic atmosphere, but its memory still lived in every survivor's heart. They're not just hunting us, Holt said quietly. They're going to desecrate what's left. Aria's expression hardened. Then we'll make that mistake cost them everything. She activated a star chart, marking the Khar'thul route. They'll have to pass through the Grave Belt, the remains of the old Terran defense line. Debris, wreckage, dormant weapons. That's our battlefield. Commander, Holt warned. Those weapons are 2 centuries old. Most won't even power on. Then we'll make them. Hours later, the Sol Remnant fleet emerged from warp near the Grave Belt. A vast ocean of debris stretched across space. Shattered satellites, broken stations, skeletal warships. The remnants of humanity's last stand. Mara Lorne's voice crackled through the comm. This place gives me chills. It's like flying through a graveyard. It is, Aria said softly. And we're about to wake the dead. Teams dispersed across the field, reactivating ancient Terran weapon platforms. railguns the size of mountains, missile silos buried in drifting stations, solar cannons powered by decaying reactors. It was madness, but it was all they had. For 48 hours, they worked without rest. When the sensors finally picked up the incoming Khar'thul fleet, humanity was ready. The Dominion's claw led the armada into the grave belt, confident in its overwhelming strength. Drones scanned the debris. Nothing but cold metal and silence. No human activity detected, a scout reported. The Chancellor smiled. Typical. Cowards hide behind wreckage. At that moment, the stars themselves lit up. Every dormant cannon, every forgotten railgun, every decaying missile system roared to life. The void erupted in a symphony of fury. The first barrage struck before the aliens could raise shields. Ships disintegrated under kinetic bombardment, their hulls turned to molten slag. Aria's fleet emerged from cloak, engines flaring. For Earth, she said quietly. The remnant charged. Human ships danced through the chaos with impossible precision. Alien fleets were built for domination, not desperation. Humanity thrived in the latter. Their weapons were crude but relentless. Kinetic rounds, rail slugs, improvised EMP bursts. Every hit crippled, every maneuver calculated to kill twice. Left flank collapsing. Mara shouted. Hold position, Aria ordered. They want us to retreat. Give them the illusion we're breaking. She waited until the Khar'thul pushed forward, then unleashed the second phase. Hidden mines, disguised as wreckage, detonated across their path. Plasma waves tore through their formations. The Chancellor's voice roared over open channels. They're using their dead as weapons. Aria smiled grimly. You made us this way. Mid-battle, the Dominion's claw forced through the chaos, its plasma cannons ripping apart human ships. Aria's vessel shook violently, alarms screaming. Shields at 20%. Holt yelled. Keep firing, Aria commanded. Target the flagship. Disable, don't destroy. Why spare him? Because he needs to see. Her ship's railgun fired one last time. The slug tore through the Dominion's claw, ripping its engines apart. The Khar'thul dreadnought drifted helplessly toward Earth's orbit, into the grave of the world they once burned. When the battle ended, silence reclaimed the stars. Wreckage glowed across the void, drifting among the bones of the old defense line. Half of the remnant fleet was gone, but so was the Khar'thul armada. Humanity had stood against extinction, and survived again. Aria stood on the bridge, watching the Earth below. Its ruined surface reflected faint light from the dying battle. Home, she whispered. Holt limped over, armor scorched. We did it. The Chancellor's ship is crippled. We can finish it. No, she said. Not yet. She opened a comm channel to the Dominion's claw. The Chancellor's face appeared, bloodied and furious. You think this is victory? He spat. You've doomed your species again. You call this doom? Aria's voice was steady. This is what survival looks like. You erased our home, but you couldn't erase what we are. Savages. No, she said coldly. Students. You taught us ruthlessness. We learned well. She ended the transmission and turned away. Prepare a boarding team, she ordered. It's time to end this. As her ship drifted toward the broken Khar'thul flagship, the stars burned crimson behind her. The galaxy had called humanity extinct. Tonight, it learned the truth. They weren't gone. They were evolving, and the inferno had only just begun. Revenge was never our purpose. But when justice slept, vengeance became our language. The wreckage of the Dominion's claw floated in Earth's orbit like a bleeding wound in the dark. Half its hull was molten glass, the other half barely clinging to integrity. It had once been the Khar'thul's pride. Now it was a tomb of their arrogance. Commander Aria Vale stood in the docking bay of the Dresden's Wrath, watching teams prepare for boarding. Her armor was scarred, her face streaked with ash, but her eyes burned clear. Captain Holt joined her, limping slightly. You sure about this, Commander? We could just vaporize what's left of that thing and be done. No, Aria said, fastening her helmet. If we end him now, they'll call him a martyr. I want the Chancellor to see humanity staring back before he dies. And if it's a trap, then it'll be the last one they ever set. The airlock cycled open with a hiss, revealing the hollow, flickering corridors of the enemy flagship. The boarding party advanced silently, weapons raised. The interior was a ruin, collapsed bulkheads, exposed conduits, the smell of scorched plasma. Dead Khar'thul floated in zero gravity, their armor torn apart by the same fury they once unleashed. They fought to the last, Holt muttered. So will we, Aria replied. They reached the command spire, where faint power still pulsed. The great viewing dome had been shattered, exposing the void beyond. The earth hung there, lifeless yet haunting, a silent witness to everything. And in the center of that shattered throne room stood the Khar'thul Chancellor. His once gilded armor was cracked, his crimson cloak shredded. Yet even broken, his presence filled the chamber with venomous pride. Human, he rasped, come to gloat over ruins. Aria stepped forward, her weapon lowered. No, I came to end a war that should have never started. He laughed, the sound bitter and dry. Your kind was born for war. You feed on it. You pretend to be victims, but every act of defiance proves your blood runs with conquest. We didn't start this, she said. You burned our skies. You called it cleansing. And look what it made you. Demons forged in fire. She met his gaze. Then you made your own nightmare. The Chancellor's claws flexed. You think killing me will change anything? The Dominion spans 1,000 systems. They will avenge me. No, Aria said. They'll crumble without you. We've already severed their supply chains, turned their vassals against them. You rule by fear. We'll bury you in the ashes of it. The alien's mandibles twitched, a sign of unease. And what will replace us? A race of savages clinging to ruins. Aria holstered her weapon and pointed toward Earth, through the cracked viewport. That ruin, she said, built everything you see in this galaxy. You just didn't understand what you were erasing. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber, broken only by the hum of dying engines. Then the Chancellor lunged. His claws slashed through the air with deadly speed, but Aria was faster. She sidestepped, drawing her blade and driving it through his chest plating. The impact shook the deck. He gurgled, grasping at her arm. You can't stop what's coming. Neither could you, she said quietly, twisting the blade. When his body went limp, she stepped back, breathing hard. Holt approached, rifle ready. You should have let me take the shot, he muttered. No, Aria said. This was personal. She looked down at the alien leader's body, at the symbol of everything that had tried to erase her species, and felt nothing but cold clarity. The war wasn't over, not truly, but its heart had just stopped beating. Back aboard the Dresden's Wrath, the crew watched the wreck of the Dominion's claw drift into Earth's gravity well. The atmosphere ignited its remains, painting a fiery trail across the dead planet's skies. A fitting burial for the tyrant who once promised humanity's extinction. Mara Lorne stood beside Aria on the observation deck. We did it, she said softly. They'll never forget this day. They'll try to, Aria replied. But history has a long memory. So what now? Now, Aria exhaled slowly. We rebuild, and we make sure no one ever does this to us again. Holt joined them, holding a data slate. Intercepted transmission from Khar'thul Command. Their outer colonies are revolting. Without central leadership, the Dominion's collapsing fast. Good, Aria said. Let them eat themselves. There's something else, Holt added. We picked up signals, human ones. Not ours. Scattered survivors, hidden colonies. Some thought soul was gone forever. They're reaching out. Aria's eyes softened. Then maybe we're not the last after all. Later, in her quarters, Aria replayed a transmission from an unknown source. The voice was human, cracked, faint, but unmistakably alive. To any remnant forces, this is the colony of Aurora 9. We survived. We're rebuilding. If anyone can hear this, humanity endures. For the first time in years, Aria smiled. A genuine, quiet smile. She opened a channel to the fleet. This is Commander Vale. The war is over. But our fight for life, for future, begins now. Find every human signal you can. Bring them home. Across the stars, ships stirred to life. Engines ignited, broadcasting new coordinates. Humanity, once scattered like ashes, was gathering again. Far beyond Sol, in the dark edges of known space, alien watchers observed. Among them were species once cowed by the Dominion, now daring to dream of freedom. But some watched with dread, because they saw what the Khar'thul never understood. Humans did not rise because they were strong. They rose because they refused to die. In the silence of space, Earth turned slowly beneath the light of its broken moon. From orbit, the scars were visible, the blackened continents, the oceans of glass. But in the heart of those ruins, buried deep under the ash, sensors flickered to life. Something was awakening. A vault sealed since the day of the fall opened for the first time in 2 centuries. Automated systems hummed, scanning, recalibrating. Within the chamber rested the last remnant of old Earth's legacy, a seed of artificial intelligence, designed for one purpose: to rebuild humanity's cradle. A mechanical voice whispered into the void. Project Genesis, reactivated. On the bridge of the Dresden's Wrath, Aria looked out at the stars. For so long, they called us extinct, she said. Holt nodded. Let's make sure we never prove them right. She turned toward her crew, voice steady, resolute. Set course for Aurora 9. Let the galaxy see what happens when extinction fails. Engines roared to life. The stars streaked past in lines of silver. And behind them, in the orbit of their ruined homeworld, the ashes of the old world glowed softly, not with death, but with the first faint light of rebirth.